and welcome to this Color It In lesson. Today I'm going to show you how to color in this amazing fishbowl scene. So if you want to color along with me, then go ahead and print out the fishbowl page from my e-coloring book number 2, which will be linked down below. And I recommend that you print this on smooth cardstock. So the main supply that I used for this project was the 36 set of Noyo gel crayons by Doodle Hog. So that and all the other supplies that I used for this project will be linked down below. And, of course, please like and subscribe so that I can continue to bring you lessons like this. So let's get started. I'll start by coloring this top section here with the light purple. So starting at that section mark on the frame, I'll outline everything in this section first. And don't worry about going right through those stripes, those will show through. But if they don't, that's why I extended them into the frame so you'll have a guide to follow. Now color that whole section, keeping your strokes close together, and don't be shy with the pressure. I sped up the video a bit, but remember to take your time and pause it whenever you need to catch up. Now I'm taking the dark purple and adding some shading towards the bottom of the wall. And I went up as high as the waterline there on the fishbowl. And now blend from dark to light. And repeat the same steps on the other section. Clean off your fingers now before moving on to this section of the table. I'll color that whole section with a thick undercoating of white first. Then switching to the medium brown, I will color over the white. You'll see on the next section that I decided not to do any outlining because it's a very dark color and I didn't want it to look so unnaturally outlined, so you could probably skip this outlining part right here. Now when you color, keep your strokes light, a little bit separated and in horizontal strokes. Blend horizontally as well, but try not to smush all the lines together. The goal is to make it look like wood grain texture. And now repeat those same steps on the other side. Clean your fingers off before moving on to the next color. And switching now to the darkest blue from the box, I'll outline a section just underneath the fish. And here I started coloring the whole thing, but then I realized I should work in sections to make the blending easier. So following the section guide on the frame, I sectioned off the dark blue and colored in just the left section. Then let's switch to the medium blue. And I'll section it off right there at the horizontal line just to make it easy. And then finish outlining and then color it in. And make sure to circle in right over the border of the dark blue. That will help with the blending process later. Switching now to the light blue, I'll section it off up to the water line and then fill it in after outlining. Now, holding down the paper, I'll blend from light to dark. And then I'll clean my fingers before moving on, which will be the same exact steps but on the other side of the water. Clean off the fingers once again. And now I'll color the whole top of the water with white first, and then I'll overlay it with some light blue. So I'm taking my time with the outlining, and then when I color the middle portion, I'll barely color it with light pressure because I want the texture of the water to show when blending, kind of like ripples. And let's clean our fingers before moving on to the next color, which will be dark orange for the bottom portion of the fish. I'll outline starting at the mouth area and matching it on the other side, and then you'll see I'll add a few rows for a thick looking border following the curve of the fish. Now I'm switching to the light orange, and I'm going to color the majority of the body, being very careful around the eye, and then I'm going to leave some white near the top. And now let's switch to the medium yellow and fill in the rest. Make sure to smooth off any crumbs first and also wipe off any other colors from it if it's dirty. And now blend from light to dark. And really make sure to blur out the edges of the light and dark tones so that we don't see harsh outlines, because it's not supposed to look like outlines, it's just supposed to look like lights and darks on the fish. So now we'll go back to the dark orange and make a thick outline at the bottom of this fin. Switching back to the light orange, I'll fill in the majority of the fin, leaving some white at the top, just like how I did it on the body of the fish. And then I'll color in the rest with that yellow. But before I blend, I wanted to more define the fin from the body, so I colored with the dark orange right behind the body. And now I'll blend from light to dark. Okay, and now I'll repeat those same steps on the other part of the tail. Alright, let's clean off the fingers before moving on. And after I did this next part, I realized that there was a cleaner way to do that, so I'll speed this part up and explain it better in just a second. So to get cleaner, crisper lines, I decided to tape off the edges and then color in that strip of wallpaper pattern. So if you want to do that, tape it on the inside lines, not the outside lines of that pattern. When you color and blend the white, lighten up your pressure towards the bottom so that dark tone on the wall still shows through. And then I realized for the next thing that I had in mind, I needed to color the rest of the fishbowl. So I colored the rest of the bowl with white, and then I colored over that with light purple. And my goal was to define the two sections, so I made the bottom part darker and the top opening part a little lighter. So now I can go back in and mask off that middle stripe of wallpaper, and I'm going to color right through the bowl up to the water line to make it look like you can see right through the glass. Now I'm masking off the outer stripes of the wallpaper pattern, and I'll color it in with dark purple. And I'll repeat that for each of those stripes, even right through the glass of the bowl. But as you'll see when I peel off that masking tape, I started to blend the edges, and don't do that. Don't do the blending yet. I felt it looked too messy, so I'm going to speed through some of this, but I'm not going to delete it so you see how I dealt with cleaning it up. But yeah, I went back and fixed it. And when you color in those purple stripes, release your pressure as you move downward, because I'm trying to make the part being seen through the bowl look a little bit lighter. But you see how my chubby pinky just kept making a mess. So it looked great here until I went in and made more of a mess. Ah. Okay, so here is where I finally had the bright idea to use a Q-tip instead of my chubby fingers to blend such a small area. And so now that I had the right idea, I went back to fix the middle stripes. So I finally just decided to use my masking tape to get my cleaner lines back. So notice that I lightly blended the edges and then the inside of the tip. And it just came out much neater with that Q-tip. Yeah, so my goal was to blur those inside stripes just a little bit because we're looking at it through glass, so it would be slightly distorted. That stripe still turned out kind of skinny looking, and it didn't look as nice and neat as the other one, but it's okay, it still turned out nice. Okay, so now let's move on to the last one. Alright, time to clean our fingers. So now I'll use my low tack tape to make the wood planks on the table show up more. I'll stick it right along the gray line and use the dark brown to create straight lines. And then I will make sure to smooth off any crumbs from the tip of my color first. And be careful right at the bowl. You might want to angle your color a little bit right at the bowl there. And here I just wanted to smooth out some of the graininess of that line. Now I'm just adding some low lights to the table by adding some of that dark brown underneath some of the existing wood grain textures. So yeah, that just gives it a little bit more definition and depth. And now blend it in horizontal strokes. Alright, now I'll color the eye with black. Make sure to smooth off any crumbs and try to find an edge on the tip of your color and carefully color it in. If you get the paint pen packet that I've linked in the description, then you could probably get away with doing the eye with a black paint pen. But if you don't, just lightly pat it or use a Q-tip to blend it. And let's use the dark orange to outline the fin. And now let's clean our fingers. So before I added the final details with the paint, I decided to work on the frame. I masked off each edge and colored it with dark brown on the outside edges and medium brown on the inside edges, and then blended it all together. And you'll see I got some smudges when I lifted up some of the tape, so I'll show you later how I just trimmed off the excess white of the paper to clean it up. Now I'll clean my fingers off and I'll prepare the paint. You just need a small dollop, and it's important to have a filbert brush because that rounded tip really helps with getting thin lines. So dip the brush in the paint and then swipe most of the paint off on the edges of the cup so it's not so gloppy. So I'll very lightly lay in some horizontal lines in the water. And here I went right through the fish, but it picked up some of that orange. So I wiped off the brush and decided to work on just all the blue areas first, and then added water lines through the fish after, so that he looked like he really is submerged in the water. So try your best to keep your strokes horizontal. Try not to let them dip down at an angle. It helps if you allow your elbow to travel with your wrist across and follow the angles of the wood planks. But don't beat yourself up if it's not perfectly straight. As you can see, mine weren't super straight, but it still turned out okay. So I wiped off any glue from the brush, and now I'll work on the water lines over the fish. So after going through the black, I decided to more properly clean my brush with water, but I wouldn't recommend holding water right over your picture like that. I just wanted to show you on camera how to clean the brush. And then press the water out, but don't pull on the bristles. And let's finish up the water details. And let's flip the brush over and dip the tip in the paint and just hold it straight over the eye and add 2 little sparkles. It's just a quick little boop boop. And now I'll clean off the brush to prepare for the white highlights on the bowl. So make sure to follow the curve of the bowl. Start with some pressure, but then release the pressure as you move down. See, I'm following the curve. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. So start with some pressure, follow the curve, release your pressure as you move down. Now for the final details, I'll use a white paint pen to add some highlights around the ring of the bowl. I'll wake it up on a scrap piece of paper first to get it nice and juicy. So I broke up the line a bit at the front to make it look like realistic shine marks. So this waterline area here got a little messy. As you can see, the paint pen sort of resists the gel crayons, so you could probably skip this step. Alright, so again, because the outer borders of my frame got smudged, I decided to trim down the white part, but I dried it first with my heat gun. And here's the close-up of the final piece. It was a lot of work, but it was fun work, and it came out so pretty. Well, again, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and I hope you'll join me for the next one. Bye!